This is on the issue of dementia and home renovations. The recently published National Dementia Strategy acknowledges that most people with dementia live in their communities and wish to continue to do so. However, to do this, they sometimes need to make adjustments to their homes, and some issues arise with this. It's often deemed that those with dementia are unsuited to apply for a loan to fund necessary renovations in their houses, and that the adaptation grant is often inadequate in terms of funding. When a family caregiver funds adaptation renovations in the home of the person with dementia, they are unable to claim the tax back from the Home Renovation Incentive Scheme, as they are not the homeowner. In the case where the person with dementia has adequate funds to make renovations, they are often on state pensions and are therefore unable to claim the tax back. And I suppose in that respect, Minister, I'm requesting that you review the policy to ensure that adequate financial support is given to ensure that people with dementia are enabled to remain in their homes. Under the Home Improvement Scheme, VAT on building work can usually be claimed back by homeowners through their PAYE. If the older person or the person with disabilities has funds to pay the cost of the building work that is not covered by the grant, they tend to be unable to claim the back through the Home Improvement Scheme. This issue arises as these people tend not to pay tax through the PAYE system, as they are usually unfit for work. And in the case where the older person or person with a disability does not have funds to cover the cost of the building work that is not covered by the grant, the burden may be left to the family. If a member of the family is not the household owner, they are ineligible to reclaim the VAT through the scheme. And let me give you an example. Mrs A has early onset dementia, and her occupational therapist has advised, along indeed with the neurological team, that she has her house adapted. The cost of the work is, say, €40,000. Her daughter needs to live with her, as the HSE provision for home help is inadequate to meet her daily needs. As her daughter works full-time, the household income of a full-time wage and Mrs A's widow's pension decreases the percentage of works allocation through the adaptation grant. The family incur the cost of the building work, which is not covered by the adaptation grant, and are ineligible to claim this money back from the Home Initiative Scheme, as they are not the homeowner. Even if Mrs A had the funds to pay for the cost not covered by the grant, she would be ineligible to claim the VAT back, as she does not have PAYE on her pension. On a separate note, the VAT payable for building works, which is not taken into consideration by the adaptation grant, which is approximately £5,000 or €5,000, needs to be paid to the builder before being eligible to claim it back through the Aids and Appliances Scheme. If the family, therefore, did not have the funds for this building, work could not be able to take place in the first instance. These are the issues, I think, that are particularly pertinent. The Home Renovation Scheme has worked very successfully, Minister. I think you would agree with me in wanting to see something done for people who suffer with dementia, and we have an increasing number of such people in our society. And I wonder if these schemes can be amended in some way so as to meet the needs of the people I'm alluding to.
Thank you. Deputy Minister for Finance.
Where I introduced the Home Renovation Incentive in Budget 2014. The scheme came into operation on the 25th of October 2013 and will run until the 31st of December 2015. The incentive provides tax relief for homeowners by way of a tax credit at 13.5% of qualifying expenditure incurred on repair, renovation or improvement work carried out in a principal private residence. In the recent budget, I announced the extension of the home renovation incentive to rental properties, whose owners are liable to income tax. The aim of the measure is to improve housing supply at a time when there is strong demand for housing and insufficient supply in certain areas. The home renovation incentive has been very successful to date, with works on just over 15,900 homes notified to the Revenue online system as of the 9th of February 2015. This represents more than 328 million worth of works, involving some 4,224 contractors. The incentive is generating significant employment in the tax-compliant construction sector and increasing sales in building supplies, hardware and related businesses. Qualifying expenditure is that which is subject to the 13.5% VAT rate. The work must cost a minimum of $4,405 exclusive of VAT, at which level it would attract a credit of $595. Where the cost of the work exceeds 30,000 inclusive of VAT, a maximum credit of 4,050 will apply. The credit is payable over the 2 years following the year in which the work is paid for. The tax credit is only available to the homeowner and not to children or other individuals who may fund the works. However, there are other measures available to individuals or family members who may fund works in their parents' homes. A housing adaptation grant for people with a disability is available from local authorities and provides grant aid to applicants to assist in the carrying out of works that are reasonably necessary for the purpose of rendering a house more suitable for the accommodation needs of a person with a disability. This grant can assist with changes and adaptations to a home, such as making it wheelchair accessible, extending it to create more space, adding a ground floor bathroom or toilet, or installing a stair lift. This grant can cover up to 95% of the cost of works carried out, which is far more generous than the relief available under the Home Renovation Incentive. If minor works are required, a means-tested mobility aids grant scheme is also available. This scheme provides grants for works designed to address mobility issues in the home, such as the purchase and installation of grab rails, access ramps, stair lifts, or level access showers. This grant is primarily targeted at older people. Further details of both these grants are available from local authorities. Works which are grant aided, such as the grants mentioned above, also qualify for the Home Renovation Incentive. 3 times the value of the grant is deducted from overall expenditure, with any remainder attracting the tax credit of 13.5%. This is to align with best fiscal practice in that relief is not provided twice for the same expenditure. It is worth noting that the deduction in respect of grant-aided work is not taken into consideration for purposes of reaching the minimum spend thresholds of 4,405 excluding VAT. Full details of the scheme are available on the Revenue website, along with a comprehensive guide for homeowners which answers frequently asked questions and provides assistance to homeowners who may wish to avail of the incentive. The Deputy may be interested to note that there is a provision for the refund of VAT incurred on qualifying goods for the exclusive use of disabled persons in the value-added tax refund of tax number 15 order 1981. The order specifies the degree of disability and defines the qualifying goods as goods which are aids or appliances, including parts and accessories, specifically constructed or adapted for use by a disabled person. The order extends to works carried out on homes to adapt them to make them more accessible for disabled persons. The works can be paid for by family members, as the rate of relief provided under the HRI equates to the same amount of relief under this VAT refund. It is therefore not necessary to include such works in HRI. So my advice, Deputy, is if there's a specific person you have in mind, or a number of persons you have in mind, the value-added tax refund of tax number 15 order 1981 can be accessed by a relative and provides the same relief at 13.5% for the work undertaken.
Deputy Seán 2 minutes.
Very brief, I appreciate the point that the Minister makes in conclusion, and that the VAT can be reclaimed by a family member. But it's also the case that the elderly person or the disabled person must have the money in the first instance to pay the contractor. And one of the difficulties is that with many of the people that we meet who require these grants, they don't have adequate finance to make this payment in the first instance. Now, I commend you on what you've done on the home renovation scheme. It's been positive in terms of what it's done for properties, been very positive in what it's done in terms of generating employment, particularly for small builders across the country. I'm aware of the use and the potential of the mobility scheme grants and the housing adaptation grants. I'm simply saying to you, Minister, that there are plenty of situations in which the monies required to adapt houses are in excess of the amount payable under these grants, particularly where people with dementia are concerned, and that people with dementia very often require a member of the family to be in residence on a full-time basis in order to support them. And in these circumstances, there is a dichotomy insofar as the old person may not have the money to pay the VAT or to pay the charge up front and recoup the VAT. The younger person is not the household owner and therefore cannot avail of the home renovation scheme. And there should be sufficient flexibility, because I suspect that there are not an inordinate number of people that fall into this category, so that it could be extended somewhat so that these schemes could be used together to the benefit ultimately of retaining a person with dementia in the community where we know they want to be and where we also know they can get the best quality care.
Thank you. Minister, to conclude.
The home renovation scheme runs until the end of 2015, and while I have no plans to renew it for a further year or two yet, we'll review the position going into the budget, as we will do in all these cases. And in the course of that review, I'll take your views into account.